Well, let's look at the tax and tax options and what South African consumers can expect in the near future with regard to taxes, macro and micro. You want to chat to me about that?
Well, to finish off the first, to lead to the second, is because we have a structural problem, we are not getting the growth we need and the jobs aren't there. And so now we're finding ourselves in a very difficult situation. And the difficulty that we're having is we got some imbalances. We tried to remedy them in ways that didn't work. And one of the things we did is we got on too much debt. And government did this by increasing the public wage. That is a very expensive way to support debt because it's basically like going to the store with credit cards and buying groceries with credit cards. You do not buy groceries with credit cards, and government should not be borrowing for the basic public wage. It's unsustainable. So we're now finding ourselves in that. We've put money in some wrong bets, and now we've got to come out of it. So we have a deficit. And I think it's about 24 to 25 billion per annum, and that has to be corrected. So how do you correct it? What government chose there was, in the medium-term budget, is to split it 50-50. We'll cut expenditure by 50, and we'll raise taxes by 50. So now as a consumer, I'm becoming a little alarmed. Where is that money going to come from? Well, I'm not the minister, so I'm not in the minister's boardroom. But given the past, and even in the last MTBS, the history of government has shown that they want to balance it out. They don't want one sector to bear the entire burden. So in terms of the shortfall, 50 is going to cut in expenditure, 50 will be raising in taxes, a 50-50 split.
But where is the 50 from the taxes going to come from? Where do you predict that 50% of the taxes to be coming from?
Well, based on the spread around, what I would say is personal income taxes will go up directly or indirectly. Now, the first thing they do is inflation adjustment. If you don't change your tax marginal brackets and they just did nothing, what happens is inflation has gone up, but government hasn't compensated you for the inflation. Now, government could actually solve most of the deficit by just not giving an inflation adjustment at all. That is an option, which means you're not going to get a tax increase. You're just going to find that you have less money every month. And you've been having that over the course of the year anyway.
Over the course of the past few years.
Yes. But you see, at the end of the year, government catches up. But this time they don't have to. Or they might only catch up in part. And I think that's what they're going to do. I think they're probably going to they'll only give you a partial catch-up. It could be 2 billion to 3 million from there. The other one that people are talking about, and that one's more sensitive, is do you raise the top marginal bracket from 40 to 42 or 40 to 45? My own personal view is if they're going to do it, they'll do it reluctantly, probably at 42.
42.
But that won't affect people under 400 or 450 per annum. It's the richer people that are going to get affected more. But again, you only get so much money there. So that's the second. Those are the easier options. Another easy option is a fuel levy. We had some drop in fuel prices, and now maybe we can kind of stoke that up a little bit, and you can get a lot of money.
But how dependable is the drop in fuel prices? We know the fluctuation in fuel prices hits us all the time. So even if we've got a little bit of a leeway, we've just got a little bit of people just saying breathing, we've got a breather from the fuel prices that have been increasing. It's not to say that it's going to be staying that way.
That's right, and I think even that you've seen now it's coming back a little. So I think that's what you're thinking of. So, but again, if government perceives that they can stoke it up a little more and people won't cry too loud, then they'll have an incentive to increase that one more. The real issue, the problem with the fuel levy is it hits the poor.
Yes.
Because it hits the taxis and all of that, and you see people, my maid makes 200 rand a day. Okay? Now, I don't know how much she pays in taxis. It's probably somewhere between 40 and 60 rand. If that goes up, that's a big loss. And a lot of people are facing that situation. So that one I agree with you. But again, it's about hiding the extra cost. We're trying to spread around. That's what the UK does, so we're not alone here on that one. Other people talk about is the VAT. So we increase the price of the VAT from 14 to 15 or 15 to 16. I don't believe they're going to do that. I think that's too politically contentious. It's going to hit people across the board. They're going to see it immediately. And they're after the 91 introduction of VAT, I think the government's still a little wary.
Yeah, I think it's not only something that you see immediately, it's something that you feel immediately. It affects you immediately in your pocket, and that's something, like you said, I think it's quite politically contentious to be doing right now.
Yeah, and the other thing too is taxes are already relatively high for the services we get. So people are very sensitive, and so the toll roads was a serious problem. The government is trying to tread carefully not to create another toll road incident. So I would say that is out. The problem is, where are you going to get the money? You can get it a little bit here and there. Some people are talking about sin taxes. We'll go after alcohol, we'll go after cigarettes. And they've been upping it every year. Maybe they can up it a little more. The problem is, the more you raise those taxes, the more you introduce smuggling and their illegal activity. So you might get more money, but then more people drop out of the system. And I think we've reached the tipping point on that one, so that one isn't so great either. So now what do you do? And this is what's difficult for the minister. The minister is a very difficult, he's got to get the budget books balanced. He can only do so much on the expenditure side. So now he's got a little bit of PIT relief, maybe raising the brackets, maybe getting the fuel levy. So where else does he start going? They've talked about loophole closing. They like that, loophole. Let's close the loopholes. We have been closing, well, my ex-Treasury self, we were seriously working on closing loopholes for the last number of years. And there comes a point where you can't do much more legislatively, and even if you cut loopholes, it takes about 2 years to implement, and they need the money to do now.
And that's the thing, it doesn't help that we have great pieces of legislation on paper. It's the implementation of things, and only the implementation of it will see how it affects the South African consumer. I just want to round this up and just ask you, what do you foresee? Can South Africans look forward to a positive budget?
Well, it depends. It depends on positive. If they can balance the books, even if it's a bit of pain, it will be positive in the long run, because the worry we have is our debt is being degraded. And even if we take some taxes increases now, it's far better than facing a reduction of our debt status to junk bond, because then maybe your taxes didn't go up, but all of a sudden your interest rates are going to go high. So even though you might take the pain now, it's like bitter medicine, you will then enjoy the fruits as it goes forward. So unfortunately, we have to take some sort of medicine.